and welcome to the season premiere of One-on-One Sports. I'm Brad Klier.
And I'm Andrew Vendelis. Before we get started with the season premiere, we'd like to send our condolences to the Edwards family for our lost brother, Chris Edwards. We are dedicating this episode and the desk we broadcast on. From now on, it will be called the Edwards Desk within the Jane and Brian Williams studio. Stay tuned. We got a great show for you, and it all starts
right now. Welcome back to this episode of One-on-One Sports.
We have a great show planned ahead, but let's step into the box for the quick hitters. Last season, players like Pascal Siakam and Karis LeVert took the leap from solid role players to stars or near-star level players in the NBA. Brad, with the NBA season near, what player has your eye for a potential breakout?
It's got to be Jonathan Isaac. I look at Jonathan Isaac. He's a guy who can guard and play above average to elite level defense from 1 to 5. Shot 38% from 3 in the second half of the year last year. He's long, he's big, he's versatile, he's athletic, he's got good speed. And in training camp right now, he's a guy who they're saying is maybe 7 feet tall now. Maybe he's bulked up to 230 pounds. So if we look at the Jonathan Isaac we've had, a very solid starter, a guy who's a fantastic defensive piece, who was a good three-point shooter the second half of the year. We're not mentioning that first round of the playoffs. If he can continue that three-point shooting, is bulked up so he can guard guys better on the interior, can maybe have an offensive game in the interior, and can maybe create a semblance of being an offensive shot creator for himself, we're looking at a guy who could take the leap to a LeVert or Siakam level, and if he does that, that's a huge swing factor for the Orlando Magic and how good they are in the Eastern Conference.
Well, my player is very similar to Pascal Siakam just a couple of years ago. Lauri Markkanen, he's on the cusp of becoming a great star for the Bulls and maybe even the league. I mean, everyone knows him from the Skills Challenge in 2018. He made the first all-team rookie NBA team in 2018 as well. And he's one of 4 players in history to have made 2 or more three-pointers per game in their first 2 NBA seasons. And on top of that, his rebounding is outstanding.
Yeah,
68.4 converted percentage for points.
We got all the stats here. You know, he's a great player. Yeah. I think he's already a better player than Jonathan Isaac. With Markkanen, it's just a matter of time until he ascends to that next level.
Him and Zach LaVine could take things up. Who knows?
And they had a great offseason. I'll give them that. After a devastating helmet-to-helmet hit on Colts tight end Jack Doyle, Raiders linebacker Vontaze Burfict was suspended for the remainder of the season by the NFL. Burfict has been suspended multiple times previously by the league. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the punishment that Burfict got?
It should be more. I mean, think about this. He's missed 22 games due to suspension. That's roughly 19% of his career. Yep. And guess how much money he's racked up?
6 figures.
Over $400,000 in fines. If Josh Gordon gets suspended indefinitely for marijuana, stay off the weed, why can't Burfict actually putting players' safety in danger? And the thing that kind of ticks me off the most is how the Raiders are responding to it. I know you want to stand up for your guy. Derek Carr said he thinks it's a little excessive, and John Gruden's just ticked off. But it's fair, and it should be more in my opinion.
I agree. If we're in a legal situation, right, and someone is being tried for a crime and they've had significant offenses previously for that crime, their punishment is going to exceed that of someone who just committed that crime for the first time. Yeah. Vontaze Burfict has shown a clear disregard for the safety of other players on the field, a disregard for the league's initiative on player safety within the league. That's a player who at a certain point, to legitimize your emphasis on player safety, you have to punish him significantly. This was the outlet to do so. Back to the Raiders part, he's a team captain. Of course they're going to support him like that, but to me, this is your chance to set a precedent and to take a player who clearly had no regard for the safety of other players on the field and make an example of him.
The thing that bothered me the most is as he was ejected from the game, he was smiling and waving as walking out of the tunnel. Just ignorance off the charts.
Not a Burfict guy.
After losing their first 4 games, the Miami Dolphins and their process have been the talk of the NFL world. While some have strongly disliked it, some appreciate the Fins going with a long-term plan in mind. Brad, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins' process?
I'm all in. I'm all in. Absolutely all in.
All in.
The worst place you can be is the middle, mediocrity, going nowhere. That's where the Dolphins have been for the last 4-5 years.
6 even.
Yeah, exactly. You look at the process in all these different leagues that we've seen it done. The Astros are perennially one of the best teams in the league, won a World Series. The Cubs won a World Series. The Sixers are great, should be way better if Brian Colangelo didn't screw it up.
Could we even put the Browns in that category, I guess?
That was the next team I was going to put in there, was the Browns. The Browns this year showing that they're ascending to that level. You look at the Dolphins right now. They got more for Laramie Tunsil than the Giants got for Odell Beckham or the Raiders got for Khalil Mack. They've killed it in the asset game. They have 9 picks over the next 2 rounds of the first 2 rounds of the next 2 drafts. The Dolphins are a team who have set themselves up strategically for long-term success. I don't understand why we criticize teams who strategically plan for long-term success, but we don't bat an eye at teams who are incompetent to the point where they are just as bad as the Dolphins,
Here's
like
my
the
thing.
Bengals.
I don't mind it. Again, clearly they have a long-term plan a la the 2017 winless Browns. If they do tank for Tua, though, what are they going to do with Josh Rosen?
Well,
I get they might trade him or, for some draft picks. I think that's the thing you should do, like the Browns and the Raiders have done. But look at their schedule coming up. The thing that worries me about them tanking is they're playing the 0-4 Redskins.
And they play the Bengals. Do they play the Bengals in there at some point?
They play the Bills, they play the Steelers, they play the Jets, the Colts, and the Bills again. I can maybe see them winning 2 games.
That would be bad. There is no benefit for them this year to win a game. As far as Josh Rosen, your point, the quarterback position is so valuable in the NFL. You take as many swings as you can on getting that quarterback, and if Josh Rosen is not the guy, and Tua is, you get Tua in there, he's your superstar long-term quarterback, you get your value back on Rosen.
Yep.
You got to take your swings at quarterback. I'm all in the Dolphins. If 4 years from now, this is going to be a Super Bowl contending team.
Definitely.
This week marks the most important week in the history of pro wrestling in 18 years. As SmackDown moves to Fox tomorrow night, NXT and AEW began their Wednesday night battle last night on TNT and USA, and Monday Night Raw effectively became WWE's B-show. Andrew, what's in store for this awesome future of
We
wrestling?
both agree on this. It is great for professional wrestling.
Yes.
2 cable syndicated broadcasts, and this is the first time in 18 years, as you said, that a non-WWE company has landed a significant TV deal. It's great for the business.
It's absolutely great. We look at it now. Who wins? The fans. 9 hours of elite, no pun intended, top tier pro wrestling every single week. Fox has the potential now to become one of the biggest mainstream wrestling shows ever. Raw has Paul Heyman in charge of it. And last night, AEW and NXT both were focused on staunch in-ring action and both delivered. The fans win. We win.
Weeks and weeks and weeks of great content, and that's all the time we have for the quick hitters. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, comment below. Let us know what your opinion is.
The quest for the World Series trophy has begun as the MLB regular season has come to an end and the 8-team field for the playoffs has been set. I'm Brad Klier, joined by Vic Blake and Carson Blythe to take a swing at which teams you can expect to see celebrating this October. Vic, I'm going to go to you first. Who's coming out of the National League?
National League, this is an unconventional answer, but it is a team that everybody loves. Atlanta Braves, they haven't won a postseason series since 2001, and this is going to be if they don't only win 1, they win 2 and make their way to the World Series. Finished 97-65, won the NL East, and really ran rampant through the entire division. Yes, they need to be healthy. Injuries have been a big thing the past couple of weeks, but you got Ronald Acuna Jr., Dansby Swanson, and Albie Albies. Ronald Acuna Jr. is a guy who had 41 home runs, 37 stolen bases, almost became a 40-40 guy. Dansby Swanson slugging .422, and Ozzie Albies put up a 4.6 WAR season. Those 3 players are going to carry that core, and they have arrested Dallas Keuchel.
Carson?
I'm sorry. I have to say the Los Angeles Dodgers. They, as much as it pains me, I am a San Francisco Giants fan. I can have to say that they are the best team in the NL by far. They are ran by the same person who used to run the Rays in their heyday when Joe Madden was managing. They are smart, and they have a buttload of money. They can have anyone on their team. Cody Bellinger is an absolute animal. Their entire bullpen is actually pretty good, unlike the past years. Their rotation has always been good, and they have so many young players coming up. Their rotation and their entire lineup is absolutely ridiculous. And they're all young, and they're here to stay.
So you bring up the back end of their bullpen, and that's what I think is the problem, the back end of that bullpen. Kenley Jansen, he's been struggling the past few months this year. If he shows up in the playoffs, yes, they win the NL easily. If he doesn't show up and they need some reinforcements out of that back end of the pen, it's not going to happen, and that's how the Braves win.
Absolutely. They were trying to trade for Felipe Vasquez towards the trade deadline, fix that back end of the bullpen. Carson, I'm going to go to you. We're going to switch to the American League now. Who's coming out of the American League?
I'm sorry, but it's the Houston Astros. I know I'm choosing the best 2 teams in both leagues. I'm not very unconventional.
Be controversial.
So-
have a hot take.
The Astros, they're leading all of their teams by WAR by 25 WAR. They have 75 WAR when the best team, which is probably I think the Yankees, have 50. That is ridiculous. Their team is founded by a young core full of some of the best athletes in our game today, and they have 3 aces in Zach Greinke, Justin Verlander, and Garrett Cole.
Done.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
All right, so if you're going with the Astros, I'm picking the New York Yankees. 103 wins, First time they won the AL East since 2012, and in 2012 got swept from the ALCS. But the big thing for them, depth, bullpen, offense. Their depth is insane. For a team to win 103 games when they had 30 players go on the IL is absolutely unbelievable. Gio Urshela was worth 3 wins this season. DJ LeMahieu is an MVP candidate out of nowhere. The guy got signed from Colorado. Nobody knew who he was, and all of a sudden DJ LeMahieu has stepped up huge. Gio Urshela, before this year, was worth negative 0.7 wins in his career. Adds the defensive value. DJ LeMahieu is just an insanely good player. You have Chapman, Ottavino, Canely,
You think
and
that
Britton.
starting rotation can hold up?
That's why they have their bullpen. The problem is their starting rotation, but they can mask it with Chapman, Ottavino, Canely, Britton, and Chad Green out of the pen. Chapman, Ottavino, Canely, Britton, pretty much what we saw from the Royals when they won in 2015. Their opponent's averages, 182, 199, 195, 179. Try and beat that when you're down in the 6th
You want to
inning.
talk about 2015? We can talk about 2015. Who beat the Yankees in 2015? The Houston Astros. That's what changed the entire Yankees formula on how they wanted to win.
In a one-game wild
They
card
saw
game.
the Astros have some of the best
Outside
players
of
in
the
the
American
world.
League, we can go on for days about the Yankees and Astros. Let's go for a dark horse here. Who's our dark horse to take it deep into October? Either league.
Well, it's going to be carried by Jack Flaherty, and it's the St. Louis Cardinals. This team is insanely good, and they've really come out of nowhere. They won a really tough NL Central division. They have Paul DeJong. Yes, he's only has an OPS of 670, 762 this year, but he's a great defender, and Jack Flaherty in the last month. 0.82 ERA. You have veteran leadership like Yadi Molina and Adam Wainwright. You don't think the guys in the St. Louis clubhouse want to win a World Series to send Molina and Wainwright off to the sunset? They want to do that, and this is a team that could be able to do it.
I'm sorry, but I have to choose the Tampa Bay Rays. You want to talk about winning a World Series? Imagine never winning one and having no budget because no one comes to your games and you're still fighting. No one fights harder than Tampa Bay Rays. Even when they were losing, they fought every pitch. They were the bane of the AL East for all the AL East teams. The Boston Red Sox hated them because they never gave up, and they still don't give up because they're the smartest team in the league, and they are not afraid to face the Giants, or like the actual Giants of the league, not the team.
They might want to face the Giants this year.
They might
100%.
actually.
I'm with you on the Rays, but it's going to be great to watch October. Best time of the year, watching the MLB playoffs. That's all we have here from the Diamond. Let us know in the comments what you think on the teams that are going to go deep into October. After a wild offseason that put almost every fan base into a state of turmoil, we are now less than 3 weeks away from the first regular season action in the NBA. This offseason, we saw new tandems, LeBron dethroned from the ESPN Top 100, and the U.S. World Cup team lacking its most explosive stars. I'm joined here today by Gray Aust and Evan Abenstein to cover everything that's going on in the association. So Gray, I'm going to go to you first. ESPN just came out with their top 100 players coming into this year. Who do you think was the most overrated player as far as their ranking on that list?
Well, it's very strange because the most overrated player and me have the same stats actually in the NBA. 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 0 assists. I'm going with Zion Williamson at 42. The man has not played a single minute in the NBA, so I don't know how these analysts can project him to be a top 50 player in the NBA if they haven't even seen him play yet. He only played about 1 quarter in the NBA Summer League, and then he got hurt. He's had some injury issues. He had him at Duke. He had him in the Summer League, so I'm really interested to see what kind of production he can have. As well as New Orleans, they have a lot of dynamic players. They have Ingram. They have Lonzo Ball. So I'm really interested to see how they can really spread the floor, and I just don't see Zion being a top 50 player in the NBA
Drew
this
Holiday
season.
and J.J. Redick as well. Evan, throwing it to you. Who do you have for that as the most overrated?
I have Trae Young. They have him ranked at 28th ahead of all-stars like Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Draymond Green, Kyle Lowry. All these guys have more all-star appearances than Trae Young's combined they have more combined all-star appearances than Trae Young's age. That just says something. And LaMarcus Aldridge made an all-star team last year. Klay made an all-star team. These guys are still valuable NBA players and good all-stars. How are you going to put Trae Young over him? He didn't even win Rookie of the Year.
So what number would you have had him at? He was at 28 on the list.
I'd put him in the 40s someplace. Yeah, it sounds more realistic for him. He's still a really good player. Averaged almost 20 and 8 last year. So no disrespect to Trae Young, but he's not an all-star like Klay and Dre and LaMarcus.
Absolutely.
I mean, you also got to admit, though, I mean, these are also going into the 2019-20 season. So you don't think Trae Young can have an explosive season this year?
He can, but again, these guys are all-stars. DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge just led the Spurs to the playoffs. Where are the Hawks right now?
I mean, the Hawks are in the basement right now, but you got to look at John Collins, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter, and Trae Young. Trae Young being the catalyst that he is at point guard. I think the Hawks could make the playoffs this year in the Eastern
Make the
Conference.
playoffs. Oh, yikes.
10 seed, probably more realistic. Just
I
got thrown
don't
in there
know.
before we go to the next one. Tobias Harris at 29. Thought that was a bit too high as well. All right, Evan, I'm going to throw this one to you. Most underrated player on this list. I know exactly where you're going. Floor is
The
yours.
Mitchell Robinson Show. Mitchell Robinson is the future of the center position in the NBA. He is 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan. He is blocking three-pointers at a historic rate since Manute Bol. Manute Bol is the only shot blocker who has blocked as many threes as Mitchell Robinson. Honestly, as many shots in a rookie season as Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson is going to be a transcendent player in this league, and next season he's just going to explode, just the same way he exploded in the second half of the season.
He exploded for starting 19 games and averaging 7 points a game.
He averaged 3 blocks during that span.
3 blocks during that span, but 7 points and
He was
6
second,
rebounds?
second in the league in block shots, averaging just 20 minutes per game. That's more than Hassan Whiteside, Rudy Gobert, name any other defensive player.
I mean, you're sounding like he's going to be like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He
I mean,
just
he
point,
catches
at some
lobs.
point.
He catches lobs with the best of them. He's catching lobs from Dennis Smith Jr. and Kadeem Allen. These are no-name players in the league.
true.
And he's still making an impact on the 17-win Knicks.
So he's just another DeAndre Jordan.
He's better than DeAndre already.
He is better than
He's better than DeAndre Jordan already?
Yes,
Yeah.
DeAndre
All right.
Jordan's
Enough
incredibly
about Mitchell
overrated.
Robinson. Who would you have as your most underrated player on your list?
Already brought his name up, John Collins. My man, the former Wake Forest Demon Deacon, averaged 20 and 10 last season. I'm predicting he's going to average about 22 and 11 this year. Gets a little more consistent from the three-point line. He's already got Trae Young throwing him lobs. He was second in the NBA in terms of power forwards, in terms of offensive rebounds. He's an animal around the basket, really catches lobs well. I'm predicting he's going to have a breakout year this year, maybe even crack an all-star team.
Are you not worried about his defensive capabilities, though? He's 6'9". He's not the biggest size for a power forward these days. That's my biggest concern. They're not a good defensive team as a whole. Trae Young, obviously, is a very poor defender as well. So that's my biggest concern with John Collins is his defense.
And that factored in a lot with their draft, with how they got Hunter and
how they got
Reddish on the
Trae Young.
perimeter. All right, last question, real quick. This was the summer of superstar duos joining up. Gray, I'll go to you first. Real quick, the best superstar duo we have now in the NBA.
In terms of chemistry, in terms of star power, I got to go with LeBron and AD. Now, I know a lot of people will say Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but it's got to be LeBron and AD. You got to remember, 2 seasons ago, they finished second and third in MVP voting. So they have
2 seasons ago. LeBron's getting older.
LeBron's getting older, but he's still a catalyst. He can still average about 7 assists a game, throw a lot of lobs to AD. AD's going to help him out defensively.
Evan,
My biggest
you're a
concern
player
about that
before you
duo,
wrap.
real quick, is the injury history. AD's had an injury
Your duo,
history.
your duo.
LeBron last
Your duo.
season. I just want to say that. My duo, I'm going with hot and consistent Steph and Clay. Clay, I know, is out half the year.
If not more.
If not more.
If not more. An ACL tear isn't as bad as it used to be, like 10 years
Still
ago
bad,
or so.
still bad.
But,
But regardless-
Clay doesn't rely on his athleticism, so I think.
But
you know.
regardless, there's going to be a lot of duos we're going to want to see this year. Lots of overrated, underrated players. That's all we have here from the hardwood. Gray, Evan, here at the desk with me. Always a fun debate. Whose side are you on?
The NHL season opened up on Wednesday with a 4-game slate, including the defending Stanley Cup champions St. Louis Blues raising their first championship banner prior to facing the Washington Capitals. Joining me for the first face-off of the season are Luis Mueller and Matt Laguza. Matt, who's the rookie that is going to have the biggest impact this season?
I'm going to have to go with the second overall pick in the draft, Capo Caco. He's 6'3", 199 pounds, and he's still only 18 years old. And what impresses me the most is what he's done already in the Finnish League. If you look just 2 years ago when he was on TPS U20, 38 games, 25 goals, and 30 assists, 55 points. And last year on the senior team, 45 games, 22 goals, and 16 assists for 38. He's already have so much experience on a professional level. I just see him fitting right in on that second line with Kreider and Strome, and he's going to do great.
Typically, I don't like to look at stats with rookies because the NHL is a completely different ball game when you're talking about the Finnish league or any of the senior leagues or anything like that. The NHL is a totally different level. You're facing people like Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin.
Alex Ovechkin.
Alex Ovechkin is another great one. So then you go with Jack. I went with Jack Hughes, the #1 overall pick. I think it's going to be a battle between those two for the Rookie of the Year the entire season. But I go with Jack Hughes because last time the Devils had a #1 overall pick, they had Nico Hischier, and and look at what he did. He gave them a playoff berth because not only do they have to focus on Taylor Hall, but now they have to focus on Nico Hischier and now Jack Hughes. And they also have to worry about Kyle Palmieri and PK Subban. The Devils had a very busy offseason. And with this busy offseason, they added a lot of weapons to allow Jack Hughes to not be in the spotlight almost. I don't see the Rangers, besides Panarin, I mean, yeah, great pick, but I don't see him getting away from the spotlight like Jack Hughes will be able to with Taylor Hall and all those other names.
Maybe Jack Hughes can make the Devils a title contender once again. But Luis, what was the best offseason move?
I'm going to have to say Corey Perry and Joe Pavelski. Yes, those are two moves, but
you cheated on that one. You pulled the Matt Holzaffel. You know?
I did kind of cheat on that one, but the reason why I say this is because the Stars were a contender. They were a contender last year. They pushed the Blues, who won the Stanley Cup, to the brink of elimination to Game 7. And now they add Corey Perry and Joe Pavelski, who are veteran leaders in the league. I know they aren't producing like they used to when they were obviously 28 in their prime, but they're leaders and they can still produce. They add depth to the Stars team that's needed it for a while, and they're also defensive players. Yes, they provide offensive leadership, offensive production, but they focus on like Corey Perry is a big man. That's a big body, and now people are gonna have to worry about that. And the Stars have struggled with defense every single year.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. They are a great acquisition for the Stars, especially since they're contenders. But for me, I'm gonna have to go with the bread man, Artemi Panarin. Great signing, 7 years, $81.5 million. And it's exactly what the Rangers need. They've got young stars like Fox, Hayek, and Capo Caco as well. But then you add in a player like Artemi Panarin. They need an explosive offensive player. And with 7 years left, he's only 27. He's going to be 34 when this contract runs out. And by the time they get there, these guys are all going to be in their prime. And with the pieces around them like Kreider and Zibanejad and Buchnevich, he's going to fit right in on that first line, and he's going to be great for that.
The only thing I don't agree with that is that they had 78 points last year, the Rangers. Panarin, yeah, he's going to make an impact, but I don't see them seeing him making that much of an impact to win the Stanley Cup or make the playoffs, to get that step forward.
All right, expect this last question to cause some controversy. Matt, loaded Metropolitan Division this year. Who's taking it?
All right, so I hate saying this as a Rangers fan, but for me, I'm going to take a leap, and I think the Islanders are going to get it. So they didn't make many moves this offseason except getting Varlamov and losing Leonard. And I think that's really the big pick that they're going to have to get. If Varlamov can produce like Leonard did last year, I think they've got a good chance because they've got one of the best defenses in the league. Barzal coming off his stellar rookie year, he's just going to keep getting better. And then guys like Nelson, Lee, and Eberle on new contracts, if they can play just as well as they did last year and Varlamov play well, I think they can get it.
I have the Washington Capitals. I think that division is there to lose, basically. I think the Islanders have to go through them. I think it's one of those two, the Islanders, the Caps. But Braden Holtby and Semyon Varlamov, who do you have? Holtby. You have Ovechkin, Barzal. Who do you have? Ovechkin. Kuznetsov. And who's the second best player on that team? Brassard, Eberle, Lee. Come on.
Plethora of talent as well. TJ Oshie, Backstrom, just to name a few. It's going to be competitive, though. Yeah. Thank you for joining us for the NHL block. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, follow us on social media at One on One Sports. We'll be right back. This week, California passed the Fair Pay to Play Act, becoming the first state to authorize college athletes to get paid for their name, image, and likeness. With this new law, athletes can also hire agents and secure sponsorships. Brad, how instrumental is this to college sports, and what can we expect from the act?
So, to me, I think this is the best solution they could have found.
Without a
because
doubt.
The idea of paying every single college athlete, to me, people may not want to hear this, to me that never made any sense. Because there are certain college sports and athletes that do not bring in revenue that is deserving of being compensated for their play.
Fair enough.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So, let's look in the past. Let's take past examples. Let's say Johnny Manziel or Tim Tebow, this was allowed while they were playing, right? They could have made significant money off of their likeness in the form of merch, TV.
I mean, Johnny Manziel kind of went around it a little bit. But
merch,
yeah.
TV cameos, conventions, autographs, you name it. If you have a player or an athlete who's capable of being paid for their services in commercial ways, they should be allowed to do so, and not putting in a set this person gets paid X amount, this person gets paid X amount. That didn't make sense. So I think this is the best solution. I think we're going to see other states make similar initiatives and acts as well.
I know Florida already is trying to pass a
exactly.
motion for it. And this is some of the biggest sports news that has come out in a long
Very
time, in
long
my
time.
opinion. And this changes everything. This
Yes.
changes the landscape of college athletes, especially for sports, as you mentioned, like NCAA football, NCAA basketball,
Yeah.
where sports are one and done there. Think about how this changes. Do you think sponsorships could keep student athletes in, you know, NCAA basketball for longer, maybe?
No, but it'll allow them to. Here's a good one. RJ Hampton and LaMelo Ball, they're playing in Australia right now. They're sort of in a kind of a one and done movement for players to go play professionally elsewhere to get paid for that 1 year. If they
Now
play,
you have it.
if this rule was in place while Zion Williamson was playing for Duke last year, he could have made a killing.
Oh my God,
while he was
Zion
there.
would have been a millionaire before he even
Exactly.
reached.
So I think it may dismay, in terms of college basketball, players going to play in Australia or elsewhere for that 1 year and playing in the NCAA because they can be compensated for the likeness.
Exactly. And now how quickly do we think this new rule is going to, you know, pan out across all 50 states if it doesn't become a federal rule?
Yeah. Again, you said that Florida's already making moves towards it. I think it's something, you know, we saw sports betting kind of gained a very significant following and
Yeah,
state
like
initiative quickly.
DraftKings and all that,
And
yeah.
then the legalization of sports gambling also. That's something that states pick up after the initiative and it became kind of societally acceptable.
Yeah.
I think the same is going to happen with this. You know, I don't think it's going into effect until 2023 or so, but regardless, this is something, like you said, that is going to have a massive, massive effect on the NCAA for years to come, more so than anything else that's happened in some time.
I think what we're going to start to see is California, obviously a big school for college sports.
Yeah.
And then Florida as well. We're going to start to see, I think North Carolina could be in the top 10 states to do it. Think about it. UNC, Duke, heck, even maybe Elon down the road. Who knows? But states where college sports dominate, Texas as well,
Yeah.
they're going to be the first to act on this. And why shouldn't they, you know?
Absolutely. I think that it also opens up ways for states to have their economies continue to be stimulated because you can have more business that's driven by the likeness of these college athletes. So it benefits not just the players who can be compensated because they're known figures, it can benefit local economies of scale as well.
It's definitely best for business.
Yes, best for business. Well, that's all the time we have here for this episode of 101 Sports.
If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at 101 Sports.
Thank you for joining us for our season premiere. So until next time,
Whose side are you on?